Hello, and welcome to the TaBNWNE Wikipedia News Edition, Season 1 Remastered.
On 18th episode is Mastercard.
Mastercard Incorporated, stylized as Mastercard, from 1979 to 2016 and as Mastercard, in lowercase from 2016 to 2019, is an American multinational payment card services corporation headquartered in Purchase, New York.
It offers a range of payment transaction processing and other related payment services, such as travel-related payments and bookings.
Throughout the world, its principal business is to process payments between the banks of merchants and the card-issuing banks or credit unions of the purchasers who use the Mastercard brand debit, credit and prepaid cards to make purchases.
Mastercard has been publicly traded since 2006.
Mastercard, originally Interbank, then Mastercharge, was created by an alliance of several banks and regional bank card associations in response to the BankAmericard issued by Bank of America, which later became Visa and is still its biggest competitor.
Along with Visa, Mastercard had faced numerous antitrust lawsuits.
Prior to its initial public offering, Mastercard Worldwide was a cooperative owned by the more than 25,000 financial institutions that issue its branded cards. Although BankAmericard's debut in September 1958 was a disaster, it began to turn a profit by May 1961.
Bank of America deliberately kept this information secret and allowed then widespread negative impressions to linger in order to ward off competition.
This strategy was successful until 1966, when BankAmericard's profitability had become far too big to hide.
From 1960 to 1966, there were only 10 new credit cards introduced in the United States. But from 1966 to 1968, approximately 440 credit cards were introduced by banks large and small throughout the country.
These newcomers promptly banded together into regional bank card associations. One reason why most banks chose to join forces was that at the time, 16 states limited the ability of banks to operate through branch locations, while 15 states entirely prohibited branch banking and required unit banking.
A unit bank can legally operate only at a single site and is thereby forced to remain very small.
By joining a regional bank card association, a unit bank could quickly add a credit card to its lineup of financial products and achieve economies of scale by outsourcing tedious back-office tasks like card servicing to the association.
Such associations also enabled unit banks to aggregate their customer bases and merchant networks in order to make a credit card useful for both customers and merchants. Early credit cards had failed because they could only be used within a small radius around their respective issuing banks.
In 1966, Carl H. Inca, an executive vice president at Marine Midland Bank, asked representatives of several other banks to meet him in Buffalo, New York.
Marine Midland had just launched its own regional bank card in the upstate New York market after Bank of America declined its request for a BankAmericard regional license because Marine Midland was too big.
The result of the Buffalo meeting was that several banks and regional bankers associations soon agreed to join forces as Interbankard Incorporated, which then became the Interbank Card Association, ICA.
By the end of 1967, ICA had 150 members and Inca became ICA's chairman.
Bank of America eventually joined Mastercard as well.
In the 21st century, Bank of America would revive the BankAmericard brand name as a Mastercard credit card, which it remains today.
The Interbank branding in 1966 initially consisted only of a small unobtrusive lowercase I inside a circle in the lower right-hand corner of the front of each Interbank card. The rest of the card design was the prerogative of each issuing bank.
This tiny logo proved to be entirely unsatisfactory for creating nationwide brand awareness in order to compete against the established leader, BankAmericard.
In 1969, Interbank developed a new national brand, Mastercharge, the Interbank card, by combining the two overlapping yellow and orange circles of the Western States Bank Card Association with the Mastercharge, name coined by the First National Bank of Louisville, Kentucky. That same year, First National City Bank joined Interbank and merged its proprietary Everything Card program with Mastercharge. In 1968, the ICA and Eurocard started a strategic alliance, which effectively allowed the ICA access to the European market, and for Eurocard to be accepted on the ICA network.
The Access Card System from the United Kingdom joined the ICA/Eurocard alliance in 1972.
In 1979, Mastercharge, the Interbank card, was renamed Mastercard.
Beginning in 1980, the company rolled out new cards with a refreshed logo.
Cards retained the overlapping red and yellow circles first, adopted in 1969. Subsequent card designs have continued to use this motif. In 1983, Mastercard International Incorporated became the first bank to use holograms as part of their card security.
They acquired the service network of automated tellers in 1985.
In 1997, Mastercard took over the Access card. The Access brand was then retired.
In 2002, Mastercard International merged with Europay International, another large credit card issuer association, of which Eurocard had become a part in 1992.
Mastercard became a Delaware corporation in connection with a merger, as well as in anticipation of an IPO. The company, which had been organized as a cooperative of banks, had an initial public offering on May 25, 2006, selling 95.5 million shares at $39 each.
The stock is traded on the NYSE under the symbol MA, with a market capitalization of $434 billion as of April 2024.
The deal was designed to maintain the value of the brand and minimize regulatory costs. In August 2010, Mastercard Worldwide, as it had been rebranded, expanded its e-commerce offering with the acquisition of DataCash, a UK-based payment processing and fraud/risk management provider.
In March 2012, Mastercard announced the expansion of its mobile contactless payments program, including markets across the Middle East.
In spring 2014, Mastercard acquired Australia's leading rewards program manager company Pinpoint for an undisclosed amount.
In July 2016, Mastercard acquired 92.4% of VocaLink, a British company, for $920 million.
In August 2017, Mastercard acquired Criterion, a company with a portfolio of intellectual property in the areas of artificial intelligence and machine learning.
Criterion holds several patents.
August 2019, Mastercard launched an offer to acquire part of the operations of Nets, a Scandinavian company, for €2.85 billion. In April 2021, Mastercard created a calculator that gathers information and measures the carbon footprints of the customers in order to help them know how much they are contributing in carbon emissions and global warming.
The same month, Mastercard announced the acquisition of Ekata, a company specializing in identity verification, for $850 million.
In March 2022, following the Russian invasion of Ukraine, Mastercard announced that it would suspend all business operations in Russia. On November 17, 2023, the Chinese government approved a local bank card clearing license for the joint venture established by Mastercard in China.
As of May 9, 2024, the joint venture can issue Mastercard bank cards that use the Chinese yuan for payment.
In September 2024, Mastercard acquired cybersecurity company Recorded Future for $2.65 billion. In mid-2025, Mastercard formalized the rollout of biometric-enabled metal credit cards built on the IDEX Pay platform.
In February 2025, South Korean manufacturer KONAI received a letter of approval from Mastercard to produce both biometric plastic, PVC, and metal cards.
These cards embed a fingerprint sensor within the card's secure chip, enabling cardholder authentication directly on the card for in-store EMV PIN-free transactions, while ensuring biometric data never leaves the card. In July 2025, Interbank plc, EBL, in Bangladesh, in partnership with Mastercard, unveiled the world's first commercially issued biometric metal credit card under the World Elite tier.
The launch took place on 5 July 2025 in Dhaka, co-sponsored by IDEX Biometrics, KONAI, and Infineon Technologies.
The card allows fingerprint authentication for EMV transactions, supports contact and contactless payments, and is issued as part of Mastercard's Priceless Specials program. Mastercard's global FAQ indicates biometric payment cards have been issued in over 70 markets, integrate with standard EMV terminals and ATMs, require no new infrastructure, and support user self-enrollment kits. As of 2024, Mastercard ranked 164 on the Fortune 500 list of the largest United States corporations by revenue. Operating a payment processing network entails risk of engaging in anti-competitive practices due to the many parties involved, that is, the customer and their bank and the merchant and their bank. Few companies have faced more antitrust lawsuits both in the US and abroad. Mastercard, along with Visa, engaged in systematic parallel exclusion against American Express during the 1980s and 1990s.
Whoa!
Mastercard used exclusivity clauses in its contracts and blacklists to prevent banks from doing business with American Express.
Such exclusionary clauses and other written evidence were used by the United States Department of Justice in regulatory actions against Mastercard and Visa.
Discover has sued Mastercard for similar issues.
Both Mastercard and Visa have paid approximately $3 billion in damages resulting from a class action lawsuit filed in January 1996 for debit card swipe fee price fixing.
The litigation cites several retail giants as plaintiffs, including Walmart, Sears, Roebuck & Company, and Safeway.
In 1996, 4 million merchants sued Mastercard in federal court for making them accept debit cards if they wanted to accept credit cards and dramatically increasing credit card swipe fees.
This case was settled with a multi-billion-dollar payment in 2003.
This was the largest antitrust award in history. In 1998, the Department of Justice sued Mastercard over rules prohibiting their issuing banks from doing business with American Express or Discover.
The Department of Justice won in 2001 and the verdict withstood appeal.
American Express also filed suit. On August 23, 2001, Mastercard International Incorporated was sued for violating the Florida Deceptive and Unfair Trade Practices Act. On November 15, 2004, Mastercard Incorporated paid damages to American Express due to anti-competitive practices that prevented American Express from issuing cards through U.S. banks and paid $1.8 billion for settlement. On November 27, 2012, a federal judge entered an order granting preliminary approval to a proposed settlement to a class action lawsuit filed in 2005 by merchants and trade associations against Mastercard and Visa.
The suit was filed due to alleged price-fixing practices employed by Mastercard and Visa.
About one-fourth of the named class plaintiffs have decided to opt out of the settlement.
Opponents object to provisions that would bar future lawsuits and prevent merchants from opting out of significant portions of the proposed settlement.
Plaintiffs allege that Visa Incorporated and Mastercard fixed interchange fees, also known as swipe fees, that are charged to merchants for the privilege of accepting payment cards.
In their complaint, the plaintiffs also allege that the defendants unfairly interfere with merchants from encouraging customers to use less expensive forms of payment such as lower-cost cards, cash, and checks.
A settlement of $6.24 billion got preliminary approval in November 2019.
A settlement of $5.54 billion was approved in 2019.
Certain merchants appealed the settlement and were heard.
The case is ongoing as of October 2022.
In October 2010, Mastercard and Visa reached a settlement with the U.S. Justice Department in another antitrust case.
The companies agreed to allow merchants displaying their logos to decline certain types of cards because interchange fees differ, or to offer consumers discounts for using cheaper cards.
Mastercard, along with Visa, has been sued in a class action by ATM operators that claim the credit card network's rules effectively fix ATM access fees.
The suit claims that this is a restraint of trade in violation of federal law.
The lawsuit was filed by the National ATM Council and independent operators of automated teller machines.
More specifically, it is alleged that Mastercard's and Visa's network rules prohibit ATM operators from offering lower prices for transactions over PIN debit networks that are not affiliated with Visa or Mastercard.
The suit says that this price fixing artificially raises the price that consumers pay using ATMs, limits the revenue that ATM operators earn, and violates the Sherman Act's prohibition against unreasonable restraints of trade.
Jonathan Rubin, an attorney for the plaintiffs, said Visa and Mastercard are the ringleaders, organizers, and enforcers of a conspiracy among U.S. banks to fix the price of ATM access fees in order to keep the competition at bay.
In October 2025, merchants agreed to a $231.7 million settlement before a U.S. district judge as D&R Supermarket, Incorporated, NL v. Visa, Incorporated, NL, for costs imposed in frauds related to counterfeit, lost, or stolen cards, with Mastercard paying $79.8 million of the settlement. The payment card, interchange fee and merchant discount antitrust litigation is a United States class action lawsuit filed in 2005 by merchants and trade associations against Visa, Mastercard, and numerous financial institutions that issue payment cards.
Whoa! The suit was filed because of price fixing and other allegedly anti-competitive trade practices in the credit card industry.
In February 2019, U.S. District Court Judge Margot Jitsi Brody approved the settlement in the case that amounted to $5.54 billion.
After 4 more years of litigation, in March 2023, the Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit affirmed the District Court's final approval order, with a modification reducing service awards and allowing the claims process to move forward.
In December 2023, claim forms started being mailed to millions of business owners in the class who accepted Visa and / or Mastercard payment cards during the 15-year class period from January 1, 2004 to January 25, 2019.
The claims period was extended from May 31 to August 30, 2024, and further extended to February 4, 2025.
Plaintiffs allege that Visa, Mastercard, and other major credit card issuers engaged in a conspiracy to fix interchange fees, also known as swipe fees, that are charged to merchants for the privilege of accepting payment cards at artificially high levels.
In their complaint, the plaintiffs also allege that the defendants unfairly interfere with merchants from encouraging customers to use less expensive forms of payment such as lower-cost cards, cash and checks.
On November 27, 2012, the United States District Judge John Gleason entered an order granting preliminary approval to a proposed settlement.
Whoa! Speaking of the settlement, Gleason said, "I don't mean to suggest for a moment that there are not a number of issues that are going to require significant scrutiny. I'm not persuaded that the deficiencies are the obvious deficiencies that ought to derail preliminary approval."
Gleason's approval was important because it allows the potential 7 million or more members of the class to begin the process of opting in or out of the settlement. The settlement provides for the cash equivalent of a 10 basis point reduction, 0.1% of swipe fees, charged to merchants for a period of 8 months.
This 8-month period would probably begin in the middle of 2013.
The total value of the settlement will be about $7.25 billion.
This amount could be decreased based on the number of plaintiffs who opt out.
A part of the settlement that allows merchants to charge fees to customers paying via credit card in order to reduce swipe fees took effect on January 27, 2013.
Debit cards and transactions in the 10 states that prohibit credit card surcharges will not be affected.
Many large retailers, such as Walmart and Target, have opted not to impose surcharges.
In the event of a return, surcharges are refunded along with the purchase price of the merchandise.
The National Association of Convenience Stores, also known as the NACS, complained that this measure merely makes retailers the collection agents for the banks.
The National Retail Federation said that card company fees are the problem and the surcharge story is a volume that belongs on the fiction aisles. The real threat to retailers and their customers continues to be price, fixed hidden fees that can only be cured by transparency and competition.
Opponents subject to provisions that would bar future lawsuits and even prevent merchants from opting out of significant portions of the proposed settlement.
Stephen Newworth, a lawyer representing Home Depot, said, "It's so obvious Visa and Mastercard were prepared to make a large payment because of the scope of the releases being given. It's all one quid pro quo and merchants like the Home Depot are being denied the chance to opt out of that quid pro quo and say this is a bad deal."
According to court filings, Target, Walmart, Home Depot, Neiman Marcus, Saks, and 1,200 other plaintiffs oppose the settlement.
A group of large merchants including Kroger, Walgreens, and Safeway have reached a separate agreement with the defendants over swipe fees.
The NACS, for example, harshly criticized the settlement and is urging its members to opt out.
Tom Robinson, chairman of NACS and president of Robinson Oil, said, "This proposed settlement allows the card companies to continue to dictate the prices banks charge and the rules that constrain the market, including for emerging payment methods, particularly mobile payments. Consumers and merchants ultimately will pay more as a result of this agreement, without any relief in sight."
Josh Brown, General Counsel for Visa, responded, "Our belief that the agreement will eventually receive final approval was strengthened today. As we have said from the beginning, this settlement is a fair and reasonable compromise for all parties. Class members can opt out of the monetary part of the settlement in addition to objecting in court."
Visa, Mastercard, and issuing banks can schedule the settlement if merchants that account for 25% or more of credit card spending in the United States since January 1, 2004, to the approval of the settlement.
The NACS is strongly encouraging its members to opt out.
Hank Harmer, president and CEO of NACS, said, "It is important to note that if you do nothing, it will be presumed by the court that you accept the terms of the proposed settlement. Even if you submitted a declaration objecting to the proposed settlement last fall, you must respond to the notice and submit something in writing again if you want to opt out of or object to the proposed settlement."
The NACS has created a website dedicated to encouraging merchants to opt out that provides detailed instructions on how to do so. The Retail Industry Leaders Association, RILA, whose members include many prominent retailers such as Best Buy and Walmart, opted out of the proposed settlement and urged its members to do the same.
Deborah White, a senior RILA official, said, "RILA and the overwhelming majority of our members agree that the proposed class action settlement is a bad deal for retailers."
RILA members are legally required to opt out on their own. Prior to this settlement, merchants won a major victory against payment processors and card issuers with the passage of the Dodd-Frank Financial Reform Bill.
Dodd-Frank required the Federal Reserve to write rules for swipe fees on debit card purchases.
Richard Durbin, the senator from Illinois who was the main proponent of those rules, has called the proposed settlement on credit card swipe fees gives Visa and Mastercard free rein to carry on their anti-competitive swipe fee system with no real constraints and no legal accountability. "This is not a settlement I would agree to. I hope that the remaining merchant plaintiffs will review the proposed settlement carefully and think hard about whether it will be good for the future of our credit and debit card systems.
Lonnie Frank, a representative from Massachusetts and a primary supporter of legislation to repeal rules on debit cards like fees, said he supports the settlement and stated, "A free market approach in this area will be better for the economy and all concerned parties."
Immediately after the preliminary approval of the settlement by Judge Reason in November 2012, a group of plaintiffs appealed to have it invalidated.
The plaintiffs argued that the settlement violated their rights by not allowing them to opt out of some provisions.
The inability to opt out of litigation releases that bar future suits was an important point of contention.
Jeff Schneider, a lawyer for the plaintiffs, said the proposed settlement violates the due process rights of millions of merchants by denying them the ability to opt out of the injunction. And this fundamental issue of law should be addressed now before notice goes out to merchants.
In January 2015, the United States Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit ruled that any appeals against the settlement that received preliminary approval in November 2012 would not be heard until objections to the settlement are filed and considered by the trial court in September 2015.
The practical effect of this ruling was to allow settlement notices to be sent to eligible merchants.
In June 2016, the United States Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit overturned the settlement on the ground that class counsel could not adequately represent merchants who has a significant interest in the monetary relief provided by the settlement and merchants who could only benefit from the prospective injunctive relief. In April 2015, the three law firms appointed to lead the plaintiffs in this case asked for $720 million in fees.
If approved, this would be one of the largest awards of legal fees in American history.
They argued that such high fees were reasonable given the amount of the settlement and the risks and complexity of the case.
This dollar amount represents about 4.5 times what would normally be billed at an hourly rate for the work performed.
Approval of these fees partially depends upon approval of the settlement.
The law firms in question are Robbins, Kaplan, Miller and Cerezi, Berger Montague, and Robbins, Geller, Redmond and Dow LLP.
Any fees awarded will be split among about 40 different law firms.
The distribution of fees is normally decided by lead counsel.
In December 2015, U.S. District Court Judge John Gleason approved the settlement in the case that amounted to $7.25 billion.
The settlement lowers interchange fees for merchants and also protects credit card companies from being sued over the issue again in the future.
That settlement was reversed.
Currently, one for US $6.24 billion is scheduled to go before the District Court on November 7, 2019.
Judge Gleason retained Alan Sykes as an independent expert in order to help the judge evaluate the proposed settlement.
Gleason said he appointed Sykes would advise the court with respect to any economic issue that may arise in connection with final approval of the settlement.
Gleason mentioned appointing an independent expert during the hearing on preliminary approval in November 2012.
He informed the parties in March 2013 that he was considering Sykes, a professor at New York University's law school.
According to a resume published by the court, Sykes previously taught at Stanford and the University of Chicago and has published several books and scholarly articles on economics and trade.
No party objected to the appointment of Sykes.
Whoa!
While parties routinely make use of experts to support their positions, judges rarely exercise this option. In addition to Visa and Mastercard, most of the largest credit card issuing American banks such as JP Morgan Chase, Bank of America, Citibank, Wells Fargo, and Capital One are defendants in the case.
Named class plaintiffs include the National Association of Convenience Stores, the National Grocers Association, the National Restaurant Association, the National Community Pharmacists Association, and 15 others.
Co-lead class counsel include Labby Montague, Meryl Davidoff, and Michael Kane of Berger Montague, Craig Wilfang, Thomas Unwin, and Brian Martha Robbins, Kaplan Miller, and Cerezi. Patrick Coughlin, Lonnie Sweeney, David Mitchell, Alexandra Bernay, and Carmen Medici of Robbins, Geller, Redmond, and Dowd. Counsel for Visa include Robert Visas, Robert Mason, Mark Murley, and Matthew Eisenstein of Arnold and Porter.
Counsel representing Mastercard include Keila Ravello, Wesley Powell, and Matthew Frymouth of Wilkie Farr and Gallagher, Kenneth Gallo, Joseph Simons, Andrew Finch, and Gary Carney of Paul Weiss, Rifkin, Gordon, and Garrison.
This case is formally known as in repayment card, interchange fee, and merchant discount antitrust litigation.
The docket number is 05-MD-01720.
The United States District Court in the Eastern District of New York, in Brooklyn, is the venue. The case is more commonly known as Swipeopoly in reference to the alleged Visa and Mastercard duopoly over the payments network.
Other variations include the Swipeopoly settlement and the swipe fee scandal.
In March 2024, a settlement in the injunctive relief portion of the payment card interchange fee case was announced to reduce what are known as swipe fees for merchants in the U.S.
This change, set to last 5 years, was expected to save retailers about $30 billion and mark the end of a long-standing legal battle over antitrust issues involving these two major credit card issuers.
As part of the settlement, the companies agreed to lower their processing fees at all U.S. merchants by at least 4 basis points for the next 3 years, ensuring these reduced rates stick for a total of 5 years. The deal included a provision that the reduced fees must be at least 7 basis points lower than the current average.
An independent auditor will review this aspect to confirm compliance.
Judge Brody of the U.S. District Court for the Eastern District of New York declined to provide preliminary approval on June 25, 2024.
Visa CEO told analysts that the company is seeking a new settlement, which could occur before, during, or even following a trial.
U.S. District Court Judge Brian Cogan took over the long-running case in September 2025 and is expected to render an opinion in 2026. On September 24, 2024, the U.S. Department of Justice filed a civil antitrust lawsuit against Visa alleging monopolization and other unlawful conduct in debit network markets in violation of Sections 1 and 2 of the Sherman Act. Separately, in October 2025, merchants agreed to a $231.7 million settlement before Judge Brody as D&R Supermarket, Incorporated, et al. v. Visa, Incorporated, et al. for costs imposed in frauds related to counterfeit, lost, or stolen cards, with Mastercard paying $79.8 million and Visa liable for $119.7 million.
American Express and Discover had previously agreed to pay $20 million and $12.2 million, respectively, of the total settlement.
In 2003, the Reserve Bank of Australia required that interchange fees be dramatically reduced from about 0.95% of the transaction to approximately 0.5%.
One notable result has been the reduced use of reward cards and increased use of debit cards.
Australia also prohibited the no surcharge rule, a policy established by credit card networks like Visa and Mastercard to prevent merchants from charging a credit card usage fee to the cardholder.
A surcharge would mitigate or even exceed the merchant discount paid by a merchant, but would also make the cardholder more reluctant to use the card as a method of payment.
Australia has also made changes to the interchange rates on debit cards and has considered abolishing interchange fees altogether. As of November 2006, New Zealand was considering similar actions, following a Commerce Commission lawsuit alleging price fixing by Visa and Mastercard.
In New Zealand, merchants pay a 1.8% fee on every credit card transaction.
The European Union has repeatedly criticized Mastercard for monopolistic trade practices.
In April 2009, Mastercard reached a settlement with the European Union in an antitrust case, promising to reduce debit card swipe fees to 0.2% of purchases.
In December 2010, a senior official from the European Central Bank called for a breakup of the Visa/Mastercard duopoly by the creation of a new European debit card for use in the Single Euro Payments Area (SEPA). WikiLeaks published documents showing that American authorities lobbied Russia to defend the interests of Visa and Mastercard.
In response, Mastercard blocked payments to WikiLeaks.
Members of the European Parliament expressed concern that payments from European citizens to a European corporation could apparently be blocked by the United States and called for a further reduction in the dominance of Visa and Mastercard in the European payment system. In 2015, Mastercard was under investigation by the European Union for the high fees it charged merchants to accept cards issued outside the EU compared to cards issued in the EU, as well as other anti-competitive practices that could hinder electronic commerce and international trade, and high fees associated with premium credit cards.
The EU's competition regulator said that these fees were of special concern because of the growing role of non-cash payments.
Mastercard was banned from charging fees on cross-border transactions conducted wholly within the EU via a ruling by the European Commission in 2007.
The European Commission said that their investigation also included large differences in fees across national borders.
For instance, a €50 payment might cost 10 euro cents in the Netherlands but 8 times that amount in Poland.
The Commission argues that Mastercard rules that prohibit merchants from enjoying better terms offered in other EU countries may be against antitrust law.
The European Consumer Organization, the EUC, praised the action against Mastercard.
The EUC said Interbank fees push up prices and hurt consumers.
The EUC Director General Monique Goyen said, so in the end all consumers are hit by a scheme which ultimately rewards the card company and issuing bank. In January 2019, the European Commission imposed an antitrust fine of €570,566,000 on Mastercard for obstructing merchants' access to cross-border card payment services. Due to Mastercard's rules obliging acquiring banks to apply the interchange fees of the country where a retailer was located.
The Commission concluded that Mastercard's rules prevented retailers from benefiting from lower fees and restricted competition between banks cross-border in breach of EU antitrust rules.
The infringement of antitrust rules ended when Mastercard amended its rules due to the entering into force of the interchange fee regulation in 2015, which introduced caps on interchange fees.
The Commission did grant Mastercard a 10% reduction of the fine, however, in return for Mastercard acknowledging the facts and cooperating with the antitrust investigation.
In February 2021, following an investigation by the British payment systems regulator, Mastercard admitted liability for breaching competition rules in relation to prepaid cards. In November 2024, the European Commission launched a further investigation into whether the scheme fees imposed by Visa and Mastercard impact negatively on retailers.
Some retailers have in recent years complained about the fees, citing a lack of transparency.
The Commission took its investigation further in June 2025, asking for a retailer view and for comments from the card operators about whether a standardized summary of fees would help to promote transparency. In November 2025, Mastercard announced its expansion in Europe with the creation of new hubs in Warsaw and Gdańsk, Poland. Mastercard, Visa, and other credit cards have been used to fund accounts since online gambling began in the mid-1990s. On March 20, 2000, the United States District Court for the Eastern District of Louisiana reviewed motions in Mastercard International Incorporated regarding multi-district litigation alleging Mastercard illegally interacted with a number of internet casinos.
The plaintiffs alleged, among other claims, that Mastercard had violated the Federal Wire Act.
They sought financial relief for losses suffered at online gambling sites outside the United States. The District Court's ruling on February 23, 2001, later upheld by the United States Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit, sided with Mastercard.
The Fifth Circuit also clarified the application of the Wire Act to illegal online gambling.
The court determined that the Wire Act only applied to gambling activities related to a sporting event or contest.
Therefore, the court could not conclude that Mastercard had violated the Wire Act.
When TaSPA was overturned May 14, 2018, Mastercard had to provide new guidance to its member banks.
It clarified that state location restrictions apply to the individual placing the wager, not the member bank processing the transaction.
According to various state gaming laws, sports betting providers must use internet geolocation to determine a customer's physical location prior to accepting a wager.
The Independent Community Bankers of America specifically requested information about a new online gambling merchant category code.
Mastercard has dedicated MCC 7801 to online gambling.
This code is distinct from 7800 for government-owned lotteries and 7802 for government-licensed horse and dog tracks.
In December 2010, Mastercard blocked all payments to whistleblowing platform WikiLeaks due to claims that they engaged in illegal activity.
In response, a group of online activists Anonymous organized a denial-of-service attack. As a result, the Mastercard website experienced downtime on December 8 to 9, 2010.
On December 9, 2010, the servers of Mastercard underwent a massive attack as part of an operation of Edge for closing down payments to WikiLeaks.
The the security of thousands of credit cards was compromised during that attack due to a phishing site set up by the attackers.
However, Mastercard denied this, stating that account data had not been placed at risk.
WikiLeaks spokesman said, "We neither condemn nor applaud these attacks."
UN High Commissioner for Human Rights Navi Pillay said that closing down credit lines for donations to WikiLeaks could be interpreted as an attempt to censor the publication of information, thus potentially violating WikiLeaks' right to freedom of expression. In July 2011, Iceland-based IT firm DataCell, the company that enabled WikiLeaks to accept credit and debit card donations, said it would take legal action against Visa Europe and Mastercard, and that it would move immediately to try to force the two companies to resume allowing payments to the website.
Earlier on December 8, 2010, DataCell CEO Andreas Fink had stated that suspension of payments towards WikiLeaks is a violation of the agreements with their customers.
On July 14, 2011, DataCell announced they had filed a complaint with the European Commission claiming the closure by Visa and Mastercard of DataCell's access to the payment card networks violated the competition rules of the European Community. On July 12, 2012, a Reykjavik court ruled that Valder, Visa and Mastercard's partner in Iceland, have to start processing donations within 14 days or pay daily fines to the amount of 800,000 Icelandic krona, some $6,000 for each day after that time, to open the payment gateway.
Valder also had to pay DataCell's litigation costs of 1.5 million Icelandic krona.
In 2014, pursuant to an agreement between Mastercard and the Nigerian government, acting through the National Identity Management Commission, the new Nigerian ID cards bear the Mastercard logo, contain personal database data and double as payment cards, irrevocably linking such payments to the individuals, sparking criticism by the Civil Rights Congress alleging that it represents a stamped ownership of a Nigerian by an American company, reminiscent of a logo pasted on the bodies of African slaves, transported across the Atlantic. In 2018, Bloomberg News reported that Google had paid millions of dollars to Mastercard for its users' credit card data for advertising purposes.
The deal had not been publicly announced.
On July 14, 2021, the Reserve Bank of India, RBI, indefinitely barred Mastercard from issuing new debit or credit cards to domestic Indian customers starting July 22, 2021, for violating data localization and storage rules as set by RBI on April 6, 2018, under Payment and Settlement Systems Act, 2007, PSS Act.
This ban does not affect cards already issued and working in India.
Mastercard is the third major payment systems provider to be restricted in India after American Express and Diners Club International.
On June 16, 2022, the business restrictions imposed were lifted by RBI with immediate effect.
In 2018, the State Bank of Vietnam, SBV, requested that banks temporarily halt the issuance of new Mastercard cards due to violations of international payment regulations.
Specifically, Mastercard did not comply with the regulation of conducting payments through the National Payment Corporation of Vietnam, NAPAS.
In 2020, the ban was lifted after Mastercard committed to complying with Vietnamese regulations.
Despite its widespread acceptance, using Mastercard in Vietnam still comes with certain limitations. Some Vietnamese websites and applications do not accept Mastercard as a payment method.
Not all ATMs in Vietnam allow cash withdrawals using Mastercard.
Some Mastercard users in Vietnam have reported experiencing inadequate customer service.
In December 2020, Mastercard barred the use of its credit cards on Pornhub, an online pornography site.
In April 2023, The Hill reported on an update to Mastercard's policy for adult content that would require sellers to have agent identity verifications and content review prior to posting in place.
The new policies took effect in October 2021.
On August 30, 2023, the American Civil Liberties Union, in combination with a coalition of other organizations, filed a complaint with the Federal Trade Commission requesting an investigation into the policy as an unfair business practice under Section 5 of the FTC Act.
Mastercard faced further backlash in 2025 for pressuring video game digital distribution sites such as Steam and itch.io into cracking down on adult content following pressure from activist group Collective Shout.
Mastercard initially denied that it was doing so, but Valve, the developer of Steam, said that the company specifically cited Mastercard Rule 5.12.7, which prohibits any transaction that is illegal or in the sole discretion of the corporation, may damage the goodwill of the corporation or reflect negatively on the marks, including that which is patently offensive and lacks serious artistic value, or any other material that the corporation deems unacceptable to sell in connection with a mark.
Depending on the geographical location, Mastercard issuers can issue cards in tiers, from the lowest to the highest. Credit cards, traditional/classic/standard, gold/titanium, diamond, platinum, world rewards, world black edition, black, world elite, and world legend.
And debit cards, traditional/classic/standard, gold/titanium, diamond, platinum, world black edition, black, and world elite.
Through a partnership with an internet company that specializes in personalized shopping, Mastercard introduced a web shopping mall on April 16, 2010 that it said can pinpoint with considerable accuracy what its cardholders are likely to purchase. In September 2014, Mastercard worked with Apple to incorporate a new mobile wallet feature into Apple's new iPhone and Apple Watch models known as Apple Pay, enabling users to more readily use their Mastercard and other credit cards. In May 2020, Mastercard announced the Mastercard Track Business Payment Service.
The service will provide business-to-business payments between buyers and suppliers.
According to the head of Global Commercial Products, it creates a directory of suppliers, enabling suppliers to publish their payment rules so they can better control how they receive payments while making it easier for buyers to find suppliers and understand their requirements. On February 10, 2021, Mastercard announced their support of cryptocurrencies, saying that later in 2021, Mastercard will start supporting select cryptocurrencies directly on their network.
One of the main focus areas that Mastercard wants to support is using digital assets for payments, and that crypto assets will need to offer the stability people need in a vehicle for spending, not investment.
In October 2021, Mastercard announced that through its partnership with Bakkt, any bank or merchant on its network would soon be able to offer crypto services.
In June 2022, Mastercard announced that it would now be allowing cardholders to purchase NFTs via various NFT scaling platforms.
Mastercard, Bank, and the U.S. Treasury Department teamed up in 2008 to create the Direct Express Debit Mastercard.
The federal government uses the Express Debit product to issue electronic payments to people who do not have bank accounts.
Bank is the issuing bank for the debit card. The Direct Express cards give recipients a number of consumer protections. In June 2015, Mastercard announced a partnership with British Airways to offer members the Executive Club Multi-Currency Cash Passport, which will allow members to earn extra points and make multi-currency payments.
The passport card allows users to load up to 10 currencies: Euro, Pound, US dollar, Turkish lira, Swiss franc, Australian dollar, Canadian dollar, New Zealand dollar, UAE dirham, and South African rand at a locked-in rate.
When used, the card selects the local currency to ensure the best exchange rate, and if the local currency is not already loaded onto the card, funds are used from other currencies. QKR is a mobile payment app developed by Mastercard operating in the US and Australia for the purpose of ordering products and services through a smartphone, with payments charged to the associated credit card.
It is being deployed for use in large-scale events, such as sport events, concerts, movie theaters, or schools.
Unlike other Mastercard mobile payment apps such as PayPass, QKR does not use NFC from the phone, but rather an internet connection. Users can open the app, scan a QR code located on the back of the seat in front of them, and place orders for refreshments of their choice.
The order is dispatched to a nearby concession stand.
QKR is being marketed to vendors as a replacement for other mobile payment apps and a mobile ordering app, either distributed by the vendor, such as Starbucks' app, McDonald's app, or Chipo's mobile ordering app, or by a third party, such as Square, headed by Twitter co-founder Jack Dorsey. Mastercard Contactless, formerly PayPass, is an EMV-compatible, contactless payment feature similar to American Express Pay and Visa PayWave.
All three use the same symbol as shown on the right.
It is based on the ISO/IEC 14443 standard that provides cardholders with a simpler way to pay by tapping a payment card or other payment device, such as a phone or key fob, on a point-of-sale terminal reader rather than swiping or inserting a card.
Contactless can currently be used on transactions up to and including £100, 50 euros, 60 Bosnian marks, 80 Swiss franc, 50 US dollars, 100 Canadian dollars, 200 Swedish krona, 500 Norwegian krone, 100 zloty, 350 Danish krone, 80 New Zealand dollars, 100 Australian dollars, 1,000 ruble, 500 hryvnia, 500 lira depending on the card's currency rather than the transaction currency, or 5,000 Indian rupee.
In 2003, Mastercard concluded a 9-month PayPass market trial in Orlando, Florida, with JP Morgan Chase, Citibank, and MBNA.
More than 16,000 cardholders and more than 60 retailer locations participated in the market trial.
In addition, Mastercard worked with Nokia and the Nokia 6131, AT&T Wireless, and JP Morgan Chase to incorporate Mastercard PayPass into mobile phones using near-field communication technology in Dallas, Texas.
In 2011, Google and Mastercard launched Google Wallet, an Android application which allows a mobile device to send credit/debit card information directly to a PayPass-enabled payment terminal, bypassing the need for a physical card up until the creation of Google Pay.
In 2014, the Apple released Apple Pay for iOS devices. During late 2015, CD cards in the US stopped issuing PayPass-enabled plastic, but the key fob was still available upon request.
Effective July 16, 2016, CD cards stopped supporting PayPass completely.
while existing plastic and key fobs continued to work until their expiration date. No new PayPass-enabled hardware was issued to U.S. customers after that date. In April 2023, Mastercard announced its intention to expand its partnerships with cryptocurrency firms.
At the time of the announcement, the firm had already partnered with other financial companies to offer cards linked to crypto in some nations.
This was despite an increasingly intense regulatory environment, and it followed rival company Visa stopping its agreement with FTX in November 2022.
The company said its Mastercard crypto credential service would allow for transactions between countries that met requirements like so-called travel rule by the Financial Action Task Force (FATF) using technology from CipherTrace.
It also worked with wallet providers BitTune, Ethereum, Mercado Bitcoin, and Uphold.
Its head of crypto and blockchain, Remastered, said usage for NFT transactions would come later on.
Antitrust litigation over the years has damaged the brand. Mastercard's current advertising campaign tagline is priceless.
It started in 1997.
The slogan associated with a campaign is "There are some things money can't buy. For everything else, there's Mastercard."
The priceless campaign, in more recent iterations, has been applicable to both Mastercard's credit card and debit card products.
They also use the priceless description to promote products such as their priceless travel site, which features deals and offers for Mastercard holders, and priceless cities offers for people in specified locations. In mid-2006, Mastercard International changed its name to Mastercard Worldwide.
This was to suggest a more global scale.
In addition, the company introduced a new corporate logo, adding a third circle to the two that had been used in the past. The familiar card logo, resembling a Venn diagram, remained unchanged.
A new corporate tagline was introduced at the same time, the heart of commerce.
In July 2016, Mastercard introduced their new rebranding, along with a new corporate logo.
In addition, they changed their service name from Mastercard to Mastercard, all lowercase letters.
In January 2019, Mastercard removed its name from its logo, leaving just the overlapping discs. In 2021, Mastercard was ranked number 13 on Morning Consult's list of most trusted brands. Mastercard sponsors major sporting events and teams throughout the world.
These include Rugby's New Zealand, the MLB, the UEFA Champions League, and the PGA Tour's Arnold Palmer Invitational.
Previously, it also sponsored the FIFA World Cup but withdrew its contract after a court settlement, and its rival, Visa, took up the contract in 2007.
It also partners the Brazil national football team and the Copa Libertadores.
In 1997, Mastercard was the main sponsor of the Mastercard Lola Formula One team, which withdrew from the 1997 Formula One season due to financial problems, having failed to qualify its first race.
The team also sponsored Jordan Grand Prix from the 1998 season through to end of the 2001 Formula One season.
In July 2024, Mastercard returned to Formula One after signing a multi-year sponsorship deal with McLaren Racing.
In August 2025, McLaren Racing announced Mastercard as the team's official naming partner.
The team will enter the 2026 season onwards as the McLaren Mastercard Formula One team. Mastercard was also the title sponsor for the Alamo Bowl game from 2002 until 2005. In late 2018, Mastercard became the first major sponsor for League of Legends esports.
The company sponsors the League of Legends World Championship, Mid-Season Invitational, and the All-Stars event for League of Legends.
Until 2018, Mastercard was the sponsor of the Memorial Cup, the CHL's annual championship between its three leagues. In September 2022, Mastercard acquired the title sponsorship rights for all international and domestic home matches organized by the Board of Cricket Control in India. Mastercard has its headquarters in the Mastercard International Global Headquarters in Purchase, New York.
The Global Operations Center is located in O'Fallon, a suburb of St. Louis, Missouri.
Mastercard was listed as one of the best companies to work for in 2015 by Forbes.
In 2016, Mastercard UK became one of 144 companies who signed the HM Treasury's Women in Finance Charter, a pledge for balanced gender representation in the company.
Key executives include Michael Meelock, President and Chief Executive Officer.
Walt McNee, Vice Chairman.
Robert Reed, President, Global Technology and Operations.
Raha Rajamanar, Chief Marketing Officer, Global Marketing.
Gary Flood, President, Products and Services.
Noah Hanft, General Counsel, Chief Franchise Officer and Corporate President.
Michael Fricaro, Chief Human Resources Officer.
Chris McWilton, President, North American Markets.
Ann Cairns, President, International Markets.
Javier Perez, President, Europe.
Kevin Stanton, Chief Transformation Officer.
Ari Sucker, President, Asia Pacific.
Betty DeVita, President, Canada.
And Alberto Calvert, President, Latin America and Caribbean.
Prior to its IPO in 2006, Mastercard was an association that had a board of directors composed of banks.
The current board of directors includes the following individuals. Merritt Jeno, Non-Executive Chair, and Amy Marina, School of International and Public Affairs, Columbia University.
Candido Pitello Brecker, former CEO, TaBNWNE Group, Independent Director.
Richard K. Davis, former Executive Chairman and CEO, U.S. Bancorp, Independent Director.
Julius Genichowski, Managing Director, The Carlyle Group, Independent Director.
Go Chun Fong, CEO, Singapore Airlines Limited, Independent Director.
Oki Matsumoto, Founder, Chairman and CEO, Monex Group, Incorporated, Independent Director.
Michael Meelock, President and CEO, Mastercard.
Yin Moon, Donald K. David, Professor of Business Administration, Harvard Business School, Independent Director.
Rima Qureshi, Executive Vice President and Chief Strategy Officer, Verizon Communications Incorporated, Independent Director.
Gabrielle Salzberger, Strategic Advisor, 2 Sigma Impact, Independent Director.
Jackson Tai, former Vice Chairman and CEO, DBS Group and DBS Bank Limited, Independent Director.
Harry Talwar, former Partner and Chairman, Consumer Business, Marcus, Goldman Sachs, Independent Director.
And Len Sugla, CEO, Beyond Net Zero, Independent Director.
In 2017, CEO Ajay Banga reinforced the company's goal of extending financial services to those outside the current system by bringing digital payment systems to the unbanked around the world.
The company invested $500 million in India with offices in Pune and Vadodara to help Mastercard bring cashless transactions to the largest population in the world.
The company also is scheduled to invest an additional $750 million in cashless apps and technology, especially focused on India between 2017 and 2020. Mastercard operates BankNet, a global telecommunications network linking all Mastercard card issuers, acquirers, and data processing centers into a single financial network.
The operations hub is located in St. Louis, Missouri.
BankNet uses the ISO 8583 protocol. Mastercard's network differs significantly from Visa's.
Visa's is a star-based system where all endpoints terminate at one of several main data centers, where all transactions are processed centrally.
Mastercard's network is an edge-based, peer-to-peer network where transactions travel a mesh network directly to other endpoints without the need to travel to a single point.
This allows Mastercard's network to be much more resilient in that a single failure cannot isolate a large number of endpoints. That's it for this episode today. Thank you for watching. Be sure to hit a like, subscribe to this channel, turn on post notifications for more videos as it happens, and see you in the next one. So long.